Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at Hawaii, and I've got a very simple question that is difficult to answer. What in the game plays like Hawaii? What is the closest approximation of this playstyle that currently exists in the game that isn't Hawaii? It's so much fun to have this level of DPM as well as the tankiness of an Alaska hull. The ship retaining its radar and of course has the ability to swap F keys to having insane close range DPM, as we can see here, alongside pretty ridiculous shell velocity and range, allowing it to play in those very passive games as well. But I've really had a tough time trying to come up with a ship that combines this level of DPM and tankiness. What in the game allows me to push an enemy battleship open water, close range like this, and not be afraid at all while having enough DPM to burn them down in less than a minute? It is incredible, the playstyle that Hawaii offers. The ship is incredibly fun, very unique. And of course, we made a similar video on Bremen and how it's similar playstyle to Hindenburg. And I think if you're on the fence still, it's been about a month of these steel ships being available, you should probably just go ahead and get Hawaii. If you've been considering between Hawaii and Bremen and you're still undecided and you can only get one, this ship is more unique. You can get a similar playstyle to Bremen in Hindenburg and a few other more open water DPM cruisers, long range focus of course. Hawaii is just Hawaii. There is nothing like it. Bursting down an Editar that quickly and then instantly turning around to deal with an Iowa at 18 kilometers. Which ended up getting out of our range. More insane damage coming up here, but look, we have a Cyclone. Light cruisers are very challenging to play in Cyclones. They essentially remove their playstyle from the game. It's very hard. What about Hawaii against a Wisconsin? Maybe Adatara wasn't strong enough of a battleship for you. I got you covered. Wisconsin is known to be pretty good, I would say. And we're going to be brawling him. Our friendly Moskva is helping for a little bit, although he's going to be a little preoccupied with that Hawaii pushing. We started this engagement against Wisconsin with 113,000 damage in the counter in the top right. And just watch how high it ends up going. We are going to be doing most of the damage to this poor Wisconsin, by the way, against a cruiser in a brawl in a Cyclone. This ship is wild. So what can play like this? Can a Colbert do this? Can a Smolensk do this? Can an Austin do this? I don't know, man. These light cruisers, we take less than 10k damage there. We're able to stay so well angled that it's very difficult to get massive salvos in. And even if you do get a 15 to 20k chunk, which would be massive against those other light cruisers in the game with similar DPM, comparable DPM, well, those ships have 30 to 40,000 HP total. That's doing like half or more of their HP when you get a 20k salvo. Here though, it's not that much. We have nearly 80k, 75k HP basically. Is so much for someone to get through without having torps or a very lucky salvo into a broadside to dev strike it, because it is just waterline Citadel. And yes, we're up to 192,000 damage there, so very fast to finish off what is a very powerful tier 10 battleship. The other incredible feature that Hawaii has that most of these other cruisers just don't have is the ability to play at long range and close range. The amount of positions that Hawaii can play is just absurd. You can play the long range maps thanks to this great shell velocity at range. We're able to easily farm down a lot of the battleships here, and it's very useful into destroyers as well. Don't underestimate when radaring an especially quick maneuverable DD, let's say a Marceau for example, I would really recommend you just stick with the normal shells that have a very good shell velocity. It's so convenient to swap over to the fast shells and just guarantee a lot of damage in on these very maneuverable targets. So huge advantage to having the option to fire at long range and this great shell velocity. But what happens if the islands that you try to push up to are extremely tall? Most cruisers, even the ones with worse shell velocity like a Colbert, don't have as bad a shell velocity as Hawaii when its F key is activated. This is essentially Atlanta shell arcs, which are not great, but a big advantage that offers is so many of these islands that you may have difficulty positioning around. Maybe not here. I think a lot of those light cruisers would be able to get over this island, but there's certainly examples where we can't farm over many islands in some of these cruisers that we want to push up to. where Hawaii FK just can. I've been surprised at the number of islands that I've been able to push up to and just simply arc over them because the shell velocity is not good, and that's a key benefit in this scenario. In this match, I was actually playing in a div with Malta, who you should go follow, by the way, if you haven't. I'll link his channel in the description down below. Great content creator for this game, but I gotta say, burning down Libertads this quickly is kind of hilarious. One of the most powerful close-range battleships in the game, the bane of cruisers' existence, right? No, well, with Hawaii, we could just burn him down before he's actually able to do any significant damage to us. He's not got the most accurate main guns. The secondaries, well, annoying. We have enough HP that we don't really worry about them, considering the amount of DPM we can get on target. Look at this guy. Hawaii is very strong, guys. Very, very strong. I'm showing you the best examples, right? These are clips. I'm showing you the best examples of what this ship is capable of. Hey, look, another Libertad. Remember, though, it's not every game is going to look this good. But I wanted to show the key strengths of this ship before we get into playing a bunch of other ships that I tried to approximate the playstyle, and I want to talk about how they compare to Hawaii. We at least need a baseline of what Hawaii is capable of, and it's a lot for other ships to measure up to. The DPM combined with the overall tankiness and the utility, the flexibility of the different shell types, or at least with this F key, it's tough to measure up to something like Hawaii. And that uniqueness, I think, sets it apart as to why you should maybe get it if, again, you're still on the fence about Bremen versus Hawaii in this year's Steel Will event. So my first intention was to try out Prinz Adalbert, okay? Hear me out. Hear me out. I know this is more of a battle cruiser with large main guns, but manually controlled secondaries. The secondary DPM on Prinz Adalbert, not hitting DPM, this is just the raw secondary DPM, was 347,000. That's pretty close to Hawaii without its F key active, which has a DPM on its HE of 324,000. Pretty comparable. You're probably noticing the difference in dispersion, though, already. And that's the problem here. We retain the tankiness. In fact, I think Prinz Adalbert might even be tankier yet than Hawaii Hull, but we don't have the accuracy on this secondary DPM. What we do get instead, though, is some pretty incredible main guns. And, well, I think both of these ships are very, very strong. They just don't have the same feeling when playing them, right? Here we have a Salem and a Des Moines that we're going to push into, and we're broadside onto a Des Moines, which is usually a bad idea, but we have incredible main guns here. I don't think Hawaii main guns are going to give us this level of damage out of them. And the secondaries will help finish off this Des Moines as well, considering the secondaries all pen 32 millimeters. It's close though, right? It's kind of close when you're doing the secondary thing and you're trying to tank some salvos. Light cruisers are not feeling too good trying to brawl a Des Moines, for example. Yet with Hawaii, I'd feel somewhat confident to do that, and certainly with Prinz Adalbert. Notably, we don't have a radar on Prinz Adalbert. We have the Hydro, 6-kilometer Hydro. German Hydros are very, very useful, but we don't have that utility either that Hawaii has. We're still very good into destroyers, of course, and if we're talking about F-key Hawaii versus Prinz Adalbert's secondaries, manual secondaries, Prinz Adalbert gets actually more range. You get 13.6 kilometers of range to spam out these shells. But that lack of accuracy, look at our hit count, even on a Colombo. It's not going up very fast. Certainly not like we would see if we were playing Hawaii. Fortunately, though, the tankiness is certainly there. Columbos are very scary for a lot of these light cruisers, as the SAP can actually full pen Citadel a lot of those comparable light cruisers that we will be getting into shortly after dealing with Prinz Adalbert. It's a key advantage, though, that we are so tanky. In fact, I think Prinz Adalbert will survive scenarios that Hawaii just won't. This is, I think, a good example of pushing where I probably shouldn't, and it's going to be tough, but we may actually survive this. Mecklenburg, Smolensk, and Napoli. Crucially, Smolensk DPM is pretty high, and Mecklenburg has secondaries and some pretty accurate main guns as well. So I was hoping this little tiny island here would actually cover me. I haven't actually played too many games on this new map, so I'm still very much in the experimenting phase. We're in a bit of trouble here, though. This island is not enough to cover us and block any sort of vision. We get a pretty massive salvo out of front guns with Prinz Adalbert. The main guns here are a highlight that we don't get out of Hawaii. But instead of alpha damage, you get that consistent crazy DPM. I really like Prince Adalbert, though. We get some flexibility here to fire over this island with these secondaries. A lot of times, secondaries just won't do that. It's nice to have that with manual secondaries. Napoli joins in on the fun. Our friendly Colombo is helping. Moral support from the back line. We're in trouble here. But Prince Adalbert tankiness is actually a little bit better than Hawaii's. Would Hawaii live longer because it's actually able to out DPM these ships faster and maybe take them out before they have a chance to deal as much damage? That is certainly something worth considering. But Prince Adalbert certainly has the advantage in armor profile. We actually are bouncing a lot of shells here, where Hawaii has that overmatchable upper belt, very large superstructure where we don't have as many of those weaknesses. However, we have less HP. It's like 10k less HP, and Hawaii has more HP than Prince Adalbert, which is kind of hilarious considering that this is more of a battle cruiser, I guess. It's a large hull too with Hawaii. It is a very large hull that we can be hitting, but flexibility, certainly an advantage that Adalbert has and Hawaii does. The ability to deal with threats on multiple flanks, to spin around very quickly if a destroyer pops up, anything like that. Turret traverse, the fast reload on the secondaries. It does feel similar-ish, but the more I've used these manual secondaries, the less it does actually feel like high DPM main guns. It really is just taking over not particularly accurate secondaries. They're there for supplemental damage. It's nice to be able to target superstructures and not just belt armor like the normal secondaries do, but it does not quite feel the same. Here we do at least get full or mostly full arms race buffs, so this is about as high DPM as you're going to find on Prince Adalbert and its secondary. Look at the dispersion. Yeah, okay. Hawaii is not like this, certainly. It's firing out similar DPM when non-F-keyed. It's just much, much more accurate. Although we do get the extra pen here. Crucially, though, Prince Adalbert also has better damage controls, which help the survivability quite a lot. Both take 60-second fires, but the damage control on Prince Adalbert comes back in 40 seconds instead of these 60 seconds like we see on Hawaii. Hawaii can get burnt down if you get it into the wrong position. Yes, it is a lot of HP to get through. It's way tankier feeling than any of those light cruisers that we're going to talk about soon. But it's not as tanky as Prince Adalbert, and certainly not as battleships. You still have to be a bit careful. Onwards to Colbert versus Hawaii. The DPM feels pretty similar. The slow shell velocity feels pretty similar. I think Colbert DPM is certainly a little bit higher, notably in the shell damage, the alpha damage. I think that's a key benefit that Colbert does have, is that the HE shells, they just do a lot more damage. You get 2100 alpha on it, where Hawaii gets 1800 alpha. That's a pretty massive difference. But Colbert is rather squishy. It's a light cruiser. If it gets caught out, like I am here, I'm in a very, very bad position. But look at how quickly our HP pool just melts. Hawaii does not feel like this. You have to get into a very bad position for Hawaii to melt like this. I gotta say, the difference in forgiveness or ease of use, Hawaii versus Colbert, is massive. I think at its best played, Colbert is going to be a better ship than Hawaii, but it is just very, very difficult to play Colbert at that level. And Hawaii, of course, still has the advantage of having an 8.5 kilometer radar. Crazy that it still gets that. What Colbert lacks in survivability, though, it makes up for in maneuverability. Especially with this engine boost up, you're able to get around the map very quickly and even dodge a lot of incoming fire. Hawaii has a lot of HP pool, but it's going to need that HP pool. Dodging salvos, dodging incoming damage is very, very difficult in something like Hawaii. You're basically just banking on taking 10 to 20k salvos and healing through it with your large HP pool. A well-played Colbert won't necessarily have to deal with that because it can avoid some of that damage. We did get a lot of blowouts in recording for this, so I'm making the best of what we can. Colbert is surprisingly solid in a brawl, as is Hawaii. That extra DPM is pretty nice. The maneuverability to get around the sides of enemy ships is pretty awesome as well. Where am I? Where? Okay. Please forget that I ever aimed. Scrub that from memory, okay? Let's just focus on the damage. Let's ignore that we missed so badly at 1 kilometer. Look at the damage. Look at the damage. The DPM here on this Marseille. AP is well worth using on these light cruiser guns, destroyer caliber guns, especially if you're finding broadsides, upper belts of battleships, heavy cruisers, that kind of thing. Sure, you may not be getting the citadels, but the DPM is just absurdly high. We actually are going to even finish off of this Marseille here. DPM feels good on Colbert. It really does. It's so nice. Just trying to stay alive in Colbert is the real challenge. And if you're someone who is interested in this Colbert playstyle, having this level of DPM, and you're just worried you're not going to survive long enough to make use of it, Hawaii is a pretty good example. We do often get islands, though, that allow Colbert to survive a lot easier than those examples I've showed you before. This is a more normal match in Colbert, and I was actually experimenting with builds, too. I'll often run a full lighthouse build on something like Colbert to really crank up the adrenaline. However, running a normal build is nice here, too. We actually get great concealment down below 10 kilometers on Colbert, so the 13.8 kilometers of range is also more usable than F-keyed Hawaii. I did notice that trying to lead F-key Hawaii shells at 12.5 kilometers is a lot harder than on Colbert. It's still not easy. Colbert shells are definitely floaty, but it's a lot easier than F-keyed Hawaii. However, we got to focus on some other things, like namely trying to stay alive. Valparaiso pushing in, a rather scary target to deal with, and we're really relying on trying to dodge a lot of the incoming damage. Some of these light cruisers, Colbert included, actually have pretty decent citadel and some upper belt armor. So if you can bait shells into that, sometimes you won't take as much damage, but it's a pretty big target that can eat a lot of damage very quickly. So playing this open water is very uncomfortable to be in this scenario, where with Hawaii, I'd kind of just be chilling if the Valparaiso wanted to push like this, because I would know my DPM is enough to take him down rather quickly, especially if I can stay outside of those secondaries, not giving him that F key to heal through 240,000 HP, or however much he actually gets through. Even with Colbert here, as uncomfortable as it is, I'm not able to use my full DPM all the time. We're still racking up a lot of damage, and this Valparaiso is actually going to go down, yes. You can kill them sometimes. So if Prince Adalbert is getting close to the survivability of Hawaii, but maybe doesn't feel quite right on the guns department, Colbert gets very close on the guns department, perhaps even better feeling thanks to the better alpha damage as well as shell velocity. And that DPM is higher, right? The DPM on Colbert is just higher even than F-keyed Hawaii. So it is a key advantage here with Colbert, but it's hard to keep this one alive long enough to make use of that. I think Colbert is an awesome ship, by the way. I really do enjoy it. But compared to Hawaii, you're just getting most of the gunplay of Colbert without very much of the risk. The balance factor of Colbert is much better as far as is it's good for the game. It's a high upside ship with a high risk, right? Hawaii brings very little risk to retain most of that high upside, which, you know, is maybe not great from a balance perspective and from a power creep perspective. Understandably, a lot of people want to play Hawaii because of that. It's not as taxing on your positioning. It's not as punishing. It's a lot more chill, more relaxed to play while retaining that fun. Notice we actually can't quite get over this island. I was shocked, but it happens every once in a while in Colbert that some of these islands aren't quite low enough for you to arc over. Or perhaps I was just too close. I was too close in this scenario. But while playing Hawaii with F-key at these ranges, almost no islands are a problem for you. So it's a small change there. Notably, a downside with Colbert is we can't just swap over to slightly less DPM. Remember, it's still around the ballpark of Smolensk and Jinan DPM when we don't use the F key on Hawaii, but we get improved shell velocity. It's really nice for trying to hit cruisers and destroyers at 10 kilometers plus. It's extremely useful for that. Colbert, we don't have that as an option, so we have to focus a lot on our aim and predicting where enemies are going to go. It's not too bad still. Colbert, again, is still easier to lead than F-keyed Hawaii, but it's so nice to just have that option to swap over to Smolensk shell velocity and not have to worry about your aim point too much. I again want to just show off the power of armor piercing here. If you haven't played a lot of these light cruisers with destroyer caliber guns, The AP is well worth using into upper belts these days. I mean, Aki Yamato hull is an old one, so it's got 32 millimeters of upper belt. That's what I'm aiming for here. And that's why we're getting so much damage out of him. But it's doable on a lot of enemy battleships, and well worth using is the armor piercing, and it's higher DPM than the HE. We don't have 32 mil pen here. We also don't have that on Hawaii with the high explosives, so aiming for smaller superstructures, they saturate a little sooner. It's really nice to have that ability to just get some full pen damage into the hull of an enemy ship. Moving on, what about Austin? Okay, this one may seem a little odd or different, but when that reload booster is up, it feels a little bit like F-keyed Hawaii. We also get upper belt that's relatively tanky on something like Austin, so maybe some comparison there. I think someone in chat put it best, is that Hawaii F-key is just Austin reload booster all the time. Which is a little sad for Austin. It's not quite fair because Austin does have a way higher DPM when the reload booster is up, especially with SAP, notably a massive strength of this ship. Having over 32 millimeters of pen on the SAP and absurd pen angles allows you to pump out some ridiculous damage numbers with this burst. However, it's quite slow firing without that burst. That's why I had to include some slower clips in here with Austin, not just show you only burst DPM clips. And it is noticeably slower on that side of things. However, we use our reload booster here, and suddenly the damage ramps up rather quickly. It's like 20k left on this Worcester after that battleship salvo, and we're going to get all of that before he's able to reverse back into cover. That feels more like Hawaii. Okay. It's harder to play, much more situational, and certainly we don't have a radar. I can't believe Hawaii gets a radar, guys. Here, my Hydro's on cooldown, but man, it'd be so nice to have radar for these destroyers. Rhode Island gets them for us, and actually gets an insane salvo in as well. Rhode Island's pretty strong. And we waste a reload booster. So suddenly now I am on a massive cooldown to actually get back to our fun DPM. Just notice that even in the audio, it's just a massive difference compared to when the reload booster is up. It slows down so much. It's so unfortunate. It's fair. Okay, it's not fair if Austin was just perma on that level of reload, but it does still feel different from Hawaii. Hawaii always has that option of just insane DPM for an unlimited duration. Pushing out onto Minnesota, maybe not the best idea, but I wanted to show off a little bit of the armor that Austin does have here. I'm still going to heal because I'm a little worried, but 32 mil upper belt means that he only gets a bit of overpen damage into our superstructure, if anything. We're able to bounce 406s. We're able to bounce even 457s with Austin in a brawl. This ship also gets torpedoes, which notably, and yes, we do actually survive that one, which notably Hawaii does not have. If you're playing a light cruiser pushed up on islands, you might get rushed, and having that as an option, torps to prevent a rush, is very nice. We also do, again, it is higher output when the reload booster is up. This is a very healthy La Pampa that is going to go dark at 11k HP left on him, and we're still going to get him. Yeah, yes. So the DPM F-key Hawaii is not as much as SAP Austin reload booster. We don't get it as often. And because of that, it's a little harder to consistently enjoy Austin. It takes more work to get the full value out of this ship. Now, hear me out before you start writing any comments. Illinois, okay? Think about it for a second. We have 12 203s on a battleship hull. We have the tankiness, or maybe even a little more, than Hawaii. We don't have to really worry about a lot of incoming damage here because we're on a battleship hull. This ship actually does not have a citadel. It's way below water. And if you max reload buff this thing, which I'm doing here, which you probably shouldn't do, accuracy mod is just better, you can approach Des Moines and Annapolis levels of reload on these shells. If we activate Halsey, if we activate Furious, if we activate close quarters combat, yes, I am maxing out my secondary range as much as I can just to activate that, we can get this ship down to a sub 5-second reload on 12 406s. So high DPM alongside crazy survivability, huh? It doesn't feel the same, okay? I can't try and fool you for much longer than that. It does not feel the same, but it is rather funny to try a build like this one. So Hawaii really is just incredibly unique. I was I spent a lot of time thinking about this over the month, and I haven't really come up with a great answer as far as a counterpart to Hawaii. We can get close on certain elements. Things like Colbert guns feel pretty similar, especially against F-key Hawaii. We have survivability that feels pretty good with Prinz Adalbert, pretty comparable, alongside having some spammy DPM elements with those secondaries, but it doesn't feel the same. We are always in those situations lacking on that radar utility as well, let alone the AA, which Hawaii in theory has pretty good AA. I have not seen it used that much. I think the carriers know to stay away from it, but in theory, it has better AA as well, so maybe you're not having to deal with that quite so much too. Hawaii is very unique, guys, and again, if you are on the fence, if you're unsure of which ship you should get, Bremen or Hawaii, at this point, it's been a month. You need someone to push you over the edge, and I just think you should get Hawaii because the playstyle is more unique. And at this point, we are going to have the Steel Will event be half over. It's February 1st that it's going to end, so you have some time to make up your mind, but if you can only get one, that's why I think Hawaii is probably the right pick. Unique ships generally are going to be more interesting to get if you have to choose between one that you can get a similar playstyle versus not. Here, notice Furious buff plus Confed buff plus Close Quarters Combat. We have a 4.7 second reload on Illinois. That's 12 203s, not 9 203s. So that's actually more DPM than a Des Moines. And unfortunately for those of you that don't have steel available during this event, I did not come up with a reasonable counterpart as far as the playstyle goes for this ship, which is kind of disappointing, of course, for those that don't have steel that can't get access to the ship. And unfortunately, Wargaming has not said if these ships will be available again. Previous iterations of these steel fleet events from last year, Prinz, Hoffman, was it Suzia? No, it was Chikumu too, maybe? Anyways, they have just not come back this year at all, and no announcement either, so pretty disappointed in that. I wish they would be a little more clear on that so people know if these and when these ships will be available again. That whole FOMO aspect, I'm not a big fan of course. So Hawaii. Let me know what you think in the comments below about maybe some other ships in the game that you think are close to this playstyle. I tried to come up with a few. I mean, we didn't play Utrecht or Jinan today, but this one has the shell velocity at range, right? We have pretty good shell velocity out to 17 kilometers on light cruiser guns. Lacking the DPM as well as lacking in the survivability department. But you get other gimmicks there. Doesn't play the same though. Certainly Jinan either. This one is a smoke ship with a lot of torps. Doesn't play the same. More comparable DPM to the non-F-keyed Hawaii. Once Hawaii gets this crazy F-key going, it's much closer to Colbert. It's not quite Colbert DPM, but it's close and feels quite good. 43.3% reload is so wild on a ship that's this tanky and retains a radar. Insane stuff. Absolutely insane stuff. It's lacking in maneuverability, certainly. Its concealment is really not great, so you've got to play around that. But this level of hit points to deal with incoming battleship overmatch, anything like that. Colombo salvos. You can eat a few Colombo salvos here, where if you're playing something like these light cruisers, this is your Citadel, and Colombo has enough pen on the sap to get through that to sap Citadel you. It's lights out. It's hard to find the counterpart, man. It's hard to find that comparison. But I tried my best. Let me know in the comments below again which ones you think are close, or if you're just enjoying Hawaii. I hope you guys are. The ship is really, really fun to play. I have been having an absolute blast with it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.